Our tale begins with a razor-sharp arrow piercing the wind. It struck a leaping white wolf right in the back, saving a terrified man below. The archer was a black-haired youth, watching from the towering cliff above. Down below, his comrades clashed against the beastly pack, wielding bloodied spears and daggers. A fatal strike ended the last beast. The mysterious archer gracefully descended the cliff face, receiving breathless gratitude from the man he rescued. The rescued noble, known as Young Master Yu, boasted that their archer was worth every single coin. The spear-wielding captain smirked, agreeing the money wasn't wasted. In fact, they struck gold. The archer, Luot Tien, possessed terrifying accuracy, rivaling a true level 1 ability user who mastered the way of the bow. But Luot Tien remained completely unfazed. He warned Captain Gao and the naive young master to keep their guards raised. Those vicious gray wolves belonged deep inside the Black Wind Gorge. Seeing them out here, his sharpened instincts screamed that a deadly trap was unfolding. Sensing the tension, Captain Gao ordered Hu San to scout ahead. Using his extreme speed ability, the scout vanished like a phantom, ready to report any lurking threats. The wealthy heir waved off Luot Tien's worries. After all, Captain Gao was a legendary peak level 1 warrior, backed by an incredibly fierce and battle-hardened squad. He blindly believed their overwhelming strength could crush any ordinary dungeon threat. This was merely routine. In this chaotic era, mysterious spatial rifts plague the Earth. These absolute death zones harbor unimaginable horrors, yet they overflow with heaven-defying treasures. Our main character, Luot Tien, is officially just a rift guide, lacking any magical abilities. Suddenly, the young master recalled a chilling rumor from recently. A monstrous red giant, wielding a colossal battle axe, was massacring everything inside the Blackstone Rift. Beast or human, it slaughtered them all. As his rich employer rambled, Luot Tien's eyes darkened. That terrifying legend was likely real. He silently estimated this Titan-possessed power exceeding level 2. While Luot Tien prayed, they avoided it. The arrogant noble was practically buzzing with excitement. He desperately wanted to witness this towering 2.5-meter mystery entity. The seasoned captain immediately shut down that foolishness. He strictly ordered the boy to focus on their actual prize, the legendary Wind Spirit Pearl. This precious pearl was the entire reason they risked their lives. It was destined as a romantic offering for the gorgeous Miss Ming. Luot Tien teased if this maiden's beauty truly justified dancing with death. The blushing noble fired back that her divine elegance was clearly beyond a commoner's imagination. Suddenly, a chilling aura silenced their banter. The veterans instantly shifted into combat formation. Weapons drawn, they crept forward under the captain's strict command. Fresh crimson stained the rocky earth. The air cursed their scouts' absolute silence, but Luot Tien grimly noted that dead men tell no tales. Maintaining an ironclad defense, the squad pushed forward. What awaited them around the bend was a horrific slaughterhouse of mangled bodies. The captain and the guide cautiously inspected the carnage. Another elite adventurer party had marched ahead, only to be completely wiped from existence. Analyzing the devastating strike patterns, Luot Tien felt a cold sweat. They died simultaneously to something terrifyingly fast. Suddenly, a sickening crunch echoed nearby, revealing the feasting killer. It was a nightmare incarnate, the deeply mutated Ghost-Headed Demon Leopard. Supposedly a peak level 1 fiend, it trampled their missing scouts' remains. Yet, its shadowy speed completely shattered the limits of a level 1 entity. A horrific realization hit them. It evolved into a level 2 calamity. Blurring through space, it shredded a vanguard before facing their front lines. The beast lunged straight at Luot Tien. Showing unexpected bravery, the noble blocked its path, shouting for the archer to pierce its glowing eyes. Igniting his ape demon strength, the noble desperately parried the lethal claws. Meanwhile, Luot Tien knocked 3 arrows, sinking a flawless shot into its left pupil. Howling in agony, the monster unleashed a shockwave. Charging forward again, Captain Gao's heavy spear violently intercepted the lethal strike. Panic fractured the squad as a mercenary dropped his blade, sobbing. A level 2 apex predator was an absolute death sentence. The crushing despair completely broke him. The captain roared a desperate warning, but it was too late. The beast unleashed a devastating sound wave. Roar! A violently swirling tornado erupted, slamming the team into the dirt. Coughing up dust, Luot Tien forced his broken body upward. He stood completely alone. The shadowy predator loomed over him, dripping with lethal intent. A terrifying rage ignited within the archer's soul. This filthy creature had courted death. It finally lunged. Instantly, he unsealed an ancient, catastrophic energy. Crackling black lightning violently scorched the earth, paralyzing the beast as a colossal axe descended from the heavens. A devastating shockwave pulverized the bedrock. Scorching flames erupted as the very rift trembled beneath them. Bathed in an inferno of rising sparks, Luot Tien reached forward. Grasping the divine battle axe, his aura transformed into absolute, terrifying dominance. Exploding forward, he carved a bloody arc across the demon leopard's flesh. Leaping high into the sky, he brought the massive axe down, violently crushing the beast. Writhing in agony, the battered fiend shrieked with unholy fury. But the empowered hunter merely scoffed. "Just a mindless animal," he sneered, delivering a bone-crushing punch. The leopard desperately anticipated another axe swing. Instead, the brutal physical blow shattered its demonic skull. Blood gazered as it violently tumbled across the ruined wasteland. Watching the pathetic creature struggle, Luot Tien pronounced its absolute doom. Terrified, the predator turned to flee. But within a heartbeat, the executioner materialized, his catastrophic weapon raised high. His ultimate strike cleaved the very earth in two. The fearsome monster evaporated into nothingness, leaving only falling ash. His bloody work finished, the battle axe dissolved. He exhaled slowly, utterly intoxicated by the supreme rush of absolute power. Sadly, the demonic axe harbored a violently corrupting energy. Extended use would shatter his humanity, turning him into a slaughtering fiend. The towering aura faded, returning our hero to normal. His bleeding comrades were clinging to life by a thread. Rummaging through their ruined supplies, a glowing mid-grade healing potion caught his eye. What a ridiculously wealthy bastard that young noble was. With such heaven-defying medicine on hand, death himself couldn't claim them today. He forced young Master Yu to swallow the liquid. Suddenly, movement at the cliff's edge caught his eye. He stood up. The approaching figure clearly recognized him. It was Jiang Bao, a Black Rock City patrol officer. Tian questioned his sudden appearance. Jiang Bao claimed a massive energy surge drew him to the area. The officer probed about a mysterious axe-wielding giant. Tian played along, claiming a mutated beast had ambushed his squad, nearly wiping them out entirely. He spun a lie about the giant saving them from certain death. But the officer's cold gaze showed zero belief in this convenient vanishing act. Hand over the blood axe, or die. Tian feigned ignorance, but Jiang Bao already saw through the facade. He knew Tian was the legendary giant. He also knew Tian's lineage as the son of Long, the former patrol chief. In this world plagued by spatial rifts, civilians cling to an illusion of safety. But beyond that fragile peace, nightmarish aberrations pour from the rifts. To combat this calamity, every city deploys awakened ability users as their absolute shield. These vanguards secure the rift borders. Tian's missing father Long once stood at the absolute pinnacle as Black Rock City's chief patrol officer, an overwhelmingly powerful awakened warrior. 3 years ago, he vanished on a mission. His final order? Tian must protect the Blood Axe's secret with his life. Jiang Bao sneered, astounded by the truth. He mocked the missing chief's devotion, leaving behind a peerless, heaven-defying artifact to a mere boy. But in Jiang Bao's greedy eyes, this was a stroke of absolute destiny. The peerless treasure would soon be his. He ridiculed the main character's foolishness for exposing such divine armament. It was basically a death wish. He fiercely demanded the weapon's exact location. A murderous aura leaked from the officer. "Speak, or die." A cold smirk crawled across Tian's face. If he wanted it so badly, he would get it. The colossal blood axe materialized in his grasp. Tian exploded upward, bringing the devastating weapon crashing down. The brutal impact shattered the earth, sending Bao flying. Coughing dust, Jiang Bao grinned like a maniac. His suspicions were dead on. How could an unawakened human possess such catastrophic, mountain-shattering strength? Tian's eyes shone with killing intent. Since the secret was out, the officer's grave was already dug. Bao instantly stomped the cracked earth. Do not mistake a newly mutated ghost-headed demon leopard for real power. Aura surged around Jiang Bao as he unleashed his second awakening skill, Iron Body. Before the metallic glow finished forming, Tian's devastating strike arrived. The bare flesh blocked the divine steel, leaving Tian stunned as the officer arrogantly demanded more. Sparks flew as steel hammered against iron skin. Tian launched a relentless barrage from every blind spot. A thunderous punch erupted, sending the armored officer skidding backward. An agonizing roar tore from Tian's throat. The blood axe's suffocating killing intent was devouring his mind. Meanwhile, Jiang Bao's metallic defense remained completely unyielding. The borrowed power was violently rejecting his mortal vessel. If Tian didn't break the connection now, his sanity would shatter, turning him into a bloodthirsty, mindless monster. Left with zero options, he pulled out his absolute final trump card. He downed the mysterious vial. Jiang Bao watched in pure, unadulterated horror at the suicidal act. The winter elixir. A forbidden concoction guaranteed to freeze the very soul. Enduring the absolute zero torment, Tian tightened his grip on the crimson hilt once more. Extreme bloodblade slash. Pure terror gripped Jiang Bao as he desperately raised his defenses. The crimson shockwave annihilated the terrain, erupting into a colossal pillar of raging fire. The devastating technique completely drained Tian's life force. But as the smoke cleared, Jiang Bao's absolute defense had entirely collapsed from the critical strike. A proud Tier 2 beginner, defeated by mere mortal trash? It was inconceivable. Tian's eyes flashed with merciless intent as he seized a dropped blade for the killing blow. Desperation broke the officer's pride. He begged for mercy, revealing that Captain Ross was already hunting the divine artifact, a monster Tian could never hope to defeat. He desperately bartered his life, offering to become an inside spy to help Tien navigate the deadly pursuit ahead. Too many words, Tien coldly dismissed the dying plea, but internally, his heart sank. Ross was a Tier 2 high-level powerhouse, an absolute titan within Black Rock City. The chessboard had just violently flipped. In this apocalypse born from the mysterious invasion, only awakened warriors possessed the right to slaughter monsters. Wang Yu lingered at the first awakening intermediate stage. Captain Gao Yuan reached the peak of Stage 1. Meanwhile, Jiang Bao had crossed into the second awakening beginner realm. This world's brutal hierarchy was strictly defined: beginner, intermediate, high, and absolute peak levels. Breaking through led to the legendary second and third awakenings. But Tien defied common sense. Completely unawakened, his earth-shattering power flowed solely from the ancient blood axe. Shackled by mortal flesh, the divine weapon's true potential was sealed. He could only draw out power mirroring a Tier 2 beginner. To uncover the truth behind his father's disappearance, he needed overwhelming strength. But every desperate attempt to awaken his core was violently rejected by the weapon's domineering aura. The revelation struck him. The ability stones he possessed were simply too pathetic. Absolute trash, completely unworthy of the Blood Axe's supreme recognition. This forced him to play the humble wilderness guide, using awakened squads as meat shields, while he hunted the rifts for legendary high-tier evolution materials. The giant's grand debut shattered his peaceful disguise. Ross's elite hounds would soon pick up his scent. Returning to Black Rock City was basically walking into a death trap. The Wind Spirit Pearl, a terrifyingly high-grade ability stone. Claiming this mythical treasure was his absolute only shot at survival and true awakening. His mortal vessel was screaming, pushing past the brink of collapse. He urgently needed a sanctuary to heal before plunging headfirst into the deadly hunt for the pearl. The Ghost-Headed Demon Leopards' lingering, putrid scent acted as the perfect natural deterrent against lower beasts. Securing this temporary safe zone, he abandoned the unconscious squad to their fate. The #1 rule of the Rift Wilderness? Never ignite a flame after dark, it beckons the nightmares lurking in the abyss. But desperate times demanded fatal risks. The campfire flickered to life. Channeling the Winter Elixir's absolute zero energy, he forcibly chained the Blood Axe's rampaging killing intent. A dangerous, life-threatening shortcut. Even the lingering frost threatened to shatter his very bones. As he entered deep meditation, a grotesque spider beast crept from the shadows, inching toward its seemingly helpless prey. Without even opening his eyes, a lethal strike pierced the darkness. The beast was left pinned to the cavern wall. As dawn broke, the real hunt finally began. Intel confirmed the Wind Spirit. Pearl appeared near Wind Thunder Cliff 3 days ago. Time was slipping away. He pushed forward, knowing rivals could steal his destiny at any second. Leaving the cavern, slaughtered beast corpses lay pinned by his deadly arrows. Without hesitation, his journey led him straight into the ominous dark shade forest. Lurking inside were shadow mantises, terrifying peak Tier 1 monstrosities. Tien masked his presence behind a massive ancient tree, observing their deadly movements from afar. This unnatural forest defied logic, harboring such elite monsters right at its borders. If he were not chasing time, he would have completely bypassed this absolute death zone. Luckily, a prepared hunter survives. He unleashed scorching flamegrass directly into their ranks. Choking black smoke erupted like a smokescreen, scattering the panicked monsters instantly. Using the thick haze as cover, Tien exploded into motion. Piercing through the suffocating fog, his eyes locked onto a pure nightmare. An early Tier 2, demonic hellflower, pulsing with venomous life. His calculations were flawless. Here in the corrupted heart of Darkshade Forest lay the hidden cavern, the legendary shortcut leading directly toward Wind Thunder Cliff. A secret passage, whispered only among grizzled veterans who survived the brutal Blackstone Rift. A rumor he caught from his father's old war tales. Suddenly, rustling leaves triggered his instincts. Leaping into the high canopy, his eyes spotted a ferocious fang beast charging in. This peak Tier 1 predator halted in absolute terror before the demonic plant. Spinning around, it found itself completely trapped by a swarm of deadly shadow mantises. Panic seized the creature. But before survival instincts kicked in, a vicious spiked vine violently coiled around its trembling body. The hellflower brutally dragged its prey into its gaping maw. Chillingly, the mantises bowed before the botanical nightmare. A horrifying realization struck Tien. These predators shared a symbiotic hunting pact. The insect swarm acted as loyal hunting dogs. Charging headlong into this absolute death trap was pure suicide. Patience was his greatest weapon. As darkness swallowed the sky, the hellflower retracted its massive petals, while its insect guardians entered a dormant slumber. The perfect opening had arrived. He dashed like a phantom until a monstrous shadow mantis violently blocked his path of escape. 3 arrows erupted from his bowstring, piercing the monster's skull instantly. But the kill resonated through the clearing. The swarm and the demonic plant awakened. Bloodshed was inevitable. He unsealed the blood axe. Crimson aura engulfed his physical form. Bursting forward like lightning, he unleashed devastating slashes upon the insect horde. Mid-swing, his free hand brutally grabbed a mantis, hurling its body straight at the demonic core. Multiple vines whipped towards him, but his blade danced gracefully, severing every lethal threat. The blood axe roared. Terrifying crimson arcs ripped through the dark woods, completely obliterating any monster foolish enough to stand in his triumphant path. These mindless brutes felt zero fear. Slowly wearing them down was impossible. He needed one absolute strike to obliterate them and forge his escape route. It was all or nothing. A colossal crimson tornado erupted from his weapon, shredding flesh and bone as it devastated the entire battlefield. Piercing the front line, the cavern entrance was mere inches away. Suddenly, enraged vines lashed out. His desperate parry sparked heavily, violently throwing his body backward. The massive impact hurled him deep into the cavern depths. Lingering was a death sentence. Even unbothered by the giant flower, the surviving insect horde remained incredibly lethal. Plunging into absolute darkness, a beam of pure light guided his frantic sprint. Bursting through the cavern exit, the legendary Wind Thunder Cliff finally dominated his vision. A landscape of pure dread. Towering peaks bathed in apocalyptic thunderstorms and crashing lightning. Suddenly, an overwhelming murderous intent locked right onto his spine. Steel sang as he raised his axe to block a devastating ambush. Skidding backward, he demanded answers. The shadowed figure grinned, recognizing the legendary blood axe. The smoke cleared, revealing the treacherous patrol captain Ross. The corrupt officer sneered, delighted that his entire day lurking in ambush had finally paid off. Ross knew about the recent murder. A direct clash meant absolute death for our hero. Seeking a desperate exit, Tien questioned how this hound tracked his hidden trail. Smirking maliciously, Ross explained his deduction. Risking the forbidden blood axe in this deadly rift proved one absolute truth. Our hero desperately hungered for the wind spirit pearl. Time was bleeding away. This suicide shortcut was his only logical path. Ross offered a twisted deal. Hand over the mythical weapon out of respect for the old chief, and keep his miserable life. Our hero's eyes burned with absolute defiance. If he wants it, he must take it in blood. Ross chuckled darkly, more than eager to deliver a brutal execution. An impossible burst of speed. A devastating blow shattered his defense, launching him violently against the jagged cavern wall. The gap in their combat mastery was terrifyingly absolute. Ross marveled at the demonic weapon, elevating a mere mortal to rival a beginner Tier 2 master. As a twisted courtesy, he prepared to deliver a swift and merciless end. Scorching aura erupted from the captain. Unbearable heat warped the very atmosphere. Unless our hero pulled off a miracle instantly, he would be incinerated into worthless ashes. Boom! A catastrophic explosion rocked the cliffside. Amidst the raging inferno, frigid mist poured from our hero's lips. Bathed in hellfire, his unyielding silhouette refused to kneel. The captain anticipated symphonies of agonizing screams. Once this stubborn pest melted into cinders, the legendary weapon would effortlessly fall into his victorious grasp. Impossible! A heaven-shaking crimson slash cleaved through the flames. The sheer devastation mirrored a high-ranked Tier 2 master. Ross stumbled backward, his arrogant mind completely shattering in absolute disbelief. The horrifying truth dawned upon the captain. Swallowing 2 winter elixirs simultaneously was pure suicide, shattering mortal limits. Yet, our hero roared, unleashing another apocalyptic wave of destruction. Evading the deadly arcs, Ross mocked this unrefined display of raw strength. He summoned a devastating meteor shower of flames. But the corrupt captain never anticipated the ultimate gamble. Our hero fearlessly leaped directly off the apocalyptic cliff. Boiling with absolute rage, the captain cursed the heavens. He swore a brutal blood oath to hunt him down dead or alive. Meanwhile, defying gravity itself, our main character slammed his axe into the sheer cliffside. Hanging suspended in midair, he descended gracefully onto a hidden branch. A brilliant, heart-stopping escape. The reckless gamble of devouring double winter elixirs under extreme heat was agonizing. Though he bypassed instant death, his internal organs screamed in sheer agony, forcing him to hastily chug a healing potion. The demonic transformation was locked away to let his shattered body heal. Worse yet, the entire underworld would soon be swarming this territory for the fabled wind spirit pearl. He needed this chaotic treasure hunt to stall. In the shadows of survival, a brief moment of chaos was all the opening he needed to claim destiny. Suddenly, brilliant emerald energy tore across the sky. Tien gasped, sensing an overwhelming presence descending. The mysterious woman landed gracefully before Ross, coldly stating his arrival was an unexpected variable. Flight! Tien was absolutely stunned. Could she be a legendary powerhouse beyond Tier 7? No, that was utterly impossible. The Black Rock Rift was merely a low-level domain. Even Tier 3 Awakened struggled to breach this place, let alone a godlike Tier 7. Ross smirked confidently. If the glorious Miss Ming coveted a divine treasure like the Wind Spirit Pearl, then his own presence here was perfectly natural. She coldly warned that once the tempest faded, only true strength would dictate survival. Listening from the shadows, Tien realized this must be the infamous Miss Ming that Wang Yu feared. Her suffocating aura was breathtakingly powerful. Unfortunately, the vast distance completely obscured her facial features from his eager gaze. Her obsession with the Wind Spirit Pearl proved she wielded wind element powers, granting her the miraculous ability of temporary flight. Watching her soar through the heavens, blazing envy and pure awe consumed his heart. Rising to his feet, a mysterious glow flickered in the distance. But it vanished so rapidly he brushed it off as a mere trick of the eye. Flash! The blinding light pulsed again. Driven by burning curiosity, he fired a grappling arrow across the chasm and smoothly rappelled down into the dark, unknown abyss. The descent revealed a hidden cave entrance. Dropping stealthily inside, his eyes widened with absolute joy upon spotting a glowing thunder element stone. While not legendary tier loot, these stones only manifested where violent lightning naturally condensed. High above on Wind Thunder Cliff, chaotic hurricanes and savage lightning ruled supreme. He previously assumed the lightning was merely a byproduct of the raging storms. But reality was far more terrifying. Crackle! A savage lightning bolt suddenly blasted toward him. Relying on his razor-sharp reflexes, he narrowly dodged the fatal strike. A vicious thunder lizard lunged from the shadows, closing the distance with terrifying, lightning-fast speed. As the beast roared and charged, he instantly unleashed a deadly volley of arrows. Clang! The projectiles bounced off a crackling, high-voltage electrical barrier shielding its scaly flesh. Though not quite a Tier 2 evolution, this monster's combat prowess completely dwarfed ordinary peak-tier beasts. He desperately ducked under its lethal swipe, sending it crashing violently into the cave wall. In raw strength and blinding agility, he was completely outclassed. Combined with its explosive lightning strikes, a prolonged battle meant certain death. He desperately needed a brilliant counterattack. Then, it clicked. The monster's fatal flaw was its soft underbelly, specifically the unarmored joint gaps connecting its massive limbs to its torso. Regardless of its impenetrable electric shield, a precise shot to that fleshy weakness would deal devastating damage. As the ferocious beast launched into the air, the perfect opening finally appeared. Lock on! He released a deadly arrow that struck true. The monster shrieked in agonizing pain as twin arrows bit deep, allowing him to swiftly retreat and create crucial breathing room. With the monster's mobility severely crippled, the true hunt had begun. Spotting a massive stalactite hanging directly above the beast, he quickly shifted his stance for the final, decisive strike. Whoosh! His arrows shattered the cave ceiling, sending the crushing rock plummeting onto the trapped beast. Pinned and helpless, he ruthlessly drove his blade through its skull. The mighty predator was slain. Without his tactical genius and environmental mastery, he would have been absolute monster chow. Suddenly, a mysterious crystal behind him began violently sparking with wild, untamed lightning energy. The electric aura surged with terrifying intensity. Lethal lightning bolts rained down with escalating, chaotic fury. Desperate for safety, he sprinted toward a faint exit glowing in the distance. Bursting through, he stood paralyzed at the bottom of a colossal crater. Bizarre, ancient energy spiraled menacingly overhead. Below him, a mesmerizing emerald vortex wildly devoured the surrounding atmosphere. Right in the eye of the storm floated the legendary Wind Spirit Pearl. Suspended in midair by an impenetrable, raging tempest, claiming this divine treasure would be a monumental nightmare. Deep fissures tore through the bedrock as emerald energy violently pulsed, blasting volatile sparks into the violent vortex. The sheer, overwhelming majesty of the phenomenon completely stole his breath. A literal thunder pool. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. The raging hurricanes outside were merely surface ripples. This electrifying abyss was the cliff's true, terrifying power source. 6 agonizing hours passed. As dawn broke, the Wind Spirit Pearl eagerly devoured the first solar rays, radiating a breathtaking, pure purple spiritual aura that defied all logic. Splash! The violently crackling thunder pool violently erupted, heralding the arrival of an unimaginably terrifying, deep-sea horror rising from the depths. A legendary flood dragon, it majestically swallowed the glorious sunrise aura in one gulp. Ignoring the priceless wind spirit pearl, the mythical beast smoothly descended back into its electrifying sanctuary. The horrifying truth dawned on him. This Tier 3 mythical beast was intentionally using the pearl as an organic spiritual battery. Its terrifying pressure alone could crush ordinary awakened warriors. This was merely a newly hatched, juvenile flood dragon. Yet its overwhelming might made him look like a mere bug. Cold sweat drenched his back, eternally grateful he hadn't attacked blindly. Safely concealed in the shadows, a cunning plan formed. When the tempest broke, the greedy surface dwellers would blindly invade. He would let them become the dragon's bloody appetizer. He would play the ultimate waiting game, striking only when the pearl was unguarded. Meanwhile, above, Miss Ming commanded absolute silence, declaring this exact location as the storm's apocalyptic epicenter. Such a miraculous domain would undoubtedly spawn countless legendary artifacts. However, she laid absolute claim solely upon the wind spirit pearl, coldly forbidding anyone from crossing her path. Ross sneered with reckless defiance. Her elite background meant absolutely nothing here. They had all braved the lethal Black Rock Rift for that exact highly coveted mythical treasure. Survival of the fittest was the only undeniable law. The ruthless crowd instantly agreed to a free-for-all. Unfazed, she flashed a dangerous smirk, silently praying Ross would maintain his foolish arrogance. Ross gritted his teeth in burning frustration. On paper, she was merely a high-ranked Tier 2 awakened, yet her suffocating presence felt like facing a literal grim reaper. Deep down, he knew crossing blades with her meant certain death. Slash! She fearlessly carved a path straight through the howling tornado. Driven by blinding greed, the shock-paralyzed mob desperately charged after her. But the storm was an absolute meat grinder. A lethal ambush of savage thunder lizards eagerly awaited them at the bottom, while the ultimate prize tantalizingly glowed high above on the deadly cliff. Panting heavily, Ross shouted to Miss Ming over the roaring chaos. To ascend that treacherous cliff, this lethal horde of crackling reptiles had to be utterly exterminated first. He proposed a ruthless tactical alliance. Since their elite vanguard consisted of 5 high-ranked Tier 2 warriors, dividing into 5 assault squads was the only logical strategy to slaughter the beasts. The bloodthirsty hunters fiercely agreed. Miss Ming merely scoffed at their pathetic teamwork. Eyes locked on the prize, she explosively launched herself straight into the monstrous horde alone. Dancing flawlessly through a chaotic barrage of lethal lightning, her blade flashed with divine elegance. Slash! Multiple beasts were instantly pulverized into bloody mist. The remaining warriors scrambled into 4 synchronized formations. Blazing infernos reduced monsters to ash, while devastating unique skills painted the cavern walls red. But amidst the slaughter, a terrifying shadow bypassed their defenses, catching Captain Gao completely off guard. His spear danced, parrying the lethal strike. He roared for young Master Yu to watch his back, instantly slaying the sparking thunder lizard in one fluid motion. He gritted his teeth. These were not ordinary peak Tier 1 beasts. Their ferocious power was overwhelming. He frantically warned young Master Yu to stay on high alert. Sweat beaded on young Master Yu's face. If the entrance harbored such terrifying demonic beasts, what absolute nightmares lurked deeper in the shadows? Regret washed over Yu for dragging Captain Gao into this hell. Unfazed, Gao declared he would honor his guild mission to the death. Then, the horde closed in. A dazzling blade flashed. Miss Ming annihilated the thunder lizards in an instant. Spotting Wang Yu, her cold eyes narrowed, demanding to know who ordered him here. Yu pleaded that he risked everything to help her claim the Wind Spirit Pearl. She coldly turned her back, ordering him to leave since this battlefield was no place for weaklings. He stood there, completely shattered. The crushing reality hit Yu. The heavenly gap between him and his goddess was insurmountable. Meanwhile, the bloody slaughter finally ended. The surviving hunters gasped, celebrating their brutal victory. But their triumph was short-lived. Crackling blue lightning orbs materialized above, raining apocalyptic explosions upon the earth. The agonizing tremors signaled an even more terrifying nightmare approaching. Suffocating dust swallowed the battlefield. What demonic entity possessed such devastating power? As the thick smoke finally cleared, sheer, paralyzing terror gripped every hunter's soul. A catastrophic thunder lizard beast king. Radiating a suffocating peak Tier 2 aura, this supreme predator forced the desperate hunters to unite their powers just to survive. The alliance was forged. They frantically asked for Miss Ming's strategy. She coldly dismissed them, fearlessly marching straight toward the towering Beast King alone. Emerald aura erupted around Miss Ming's divine blade, her piercing eyes locking onto her prey. With an earth-shattering roar, her blade of wind cleaved the colossal Beast King in half. The devastating strike took its toll. Miss Ming crashed to one knee, heavily gripping her hilt, completely exhausted but fiercely refusing to fall. The onlookers stood paralyzed, minds blown that a supreme Beast King was annihilated instantly. Captain Ross broke into a cold sweat, recognizing the undeniable destructive power of a Tier 3. This bloodbath proved the Wind Spirit Pearl would demand a heavy price. Reaching the jagged cliff summit, a massive crater revealed itself. Hidden nearby, Tien smirked. The legendary destination at last. Tien's wicked scheme was set. Let these foolish awakeners act as cannon fodder against the Thunder Flood Dragon. Melting into the abyss, he patiently stalked his moment to strike. Peering through the jagged rocks, Tien watched Miss Ming freeze. The mythical Wind Spirit Pearl floated enticingly close, but her battle-hardened instincts screamed of a deadly trap, forcing a tactical retreat. The legendary Wind Spirit Pearl passively manipulates gales to cloak its divine presence, making it almost impossible to pinpoint. Why was this supreme treasure sitting completely exposed? The greedy awakeners blindly charged forward. Instantly, blinding voltage incinerated them as apocalyptic lightning violently erupted from the cursed thunder pool. Their charred corpses plummeted downward. Captain Ross furiously roared, demanding everyone's absolute focus, warning that a catastrophic demonic beast slumbered deep beneath the cursed waters. Claiming the Wind Spirit Pearl required an ironclad alliance. A towering, battle-scarred brute stepped forward, cracking his knuckles as he prepared to lay down the absolute law. His booming voice echoed, declaring nobody touches that divine pearl until the aquatic nightmare is utterly destroyed. Anyone who dares sneak a grab will be slaughtered on the spot. Zero mercy. He shot Miss Ming a lethal glare, forbidding any lone wolf heroics today. Unfazed, the Ice Queen simply nodded, accepting the brutal terms. Reinforcements heavily crashed into the deadly crater, completely unaware of Tien watching from the shadows. With the terrifying beast submerged in the lightning pool, a grim tactical dilemma arose. The hulking brute sneered with a ruthless strategy. Since this underwater demon desperately guarded the Wind Spirit Pearl, they just needed a sacrificial pawn to fake a heist. The brute commanded them to block its ambush to drag it out, pointing a thick finger at a random hunter. Trembling in sheer terror, the pathetic prey begged Captain Ross, claiming his aura was entirely too weak. The coward desperately pleaded for his life. Disgusted by his defiance, Captain Ross ruthlessly executed him on the spot. Watching from the shadows, Tien's blood ran cold. Captain Ross was an absolute bloody tyrant. He then targeted another terrified victim. Forced toward certain death, the unlucky hunter viciously cursed Ross's ancestors in his mind. He leaped toward the glowing artifact, instantly triggering a deadly lightning strike. Seizing the opening, Captain Ross unleashed a roaring inferno to block the voltage. The ecstatic bait successfully grasped the divine pearl, but a shadow of death instantly eclipsed him. The water erupted, revealing a legendary Thunder Flood Dragon. Absolute shock paralyzed the raid group as the mythical titan immediately raged. A devastating tail whip shattered the ground. Captain Ross broke into a terrified cold sweat. This apocalyptic monster radiated a genuine Tier 3 catastrophic aura. The brute scoffed at the danger, roaring that securing the mythical loot meant slaughtering the beast. Suddenly, the cunning dragon whipped around, desperately trying to dive back into its sanctuary. They could not let it reach the water. Roaring fiercely, Captain Ross ignited the entire pool into a blazing inferno. Screeching in agony, the mighty dragon blasted upward, violently smashing the cavern walls. "Save him, or we all get hunted down," the giant roared, refusing to let the raid fall apart. Unleashing their ultimate skills, the squad bombarded the titan in perfect unison. The hulking warrior intercepted a lethal crush, barely saving Ross from becoming a bloody paste. He grunted, asking if Ross survived. Ross coughed, flashing a crazy grin, bragging he was not dead yet. Miss Ming's icy voice instantly pierced the chaos, declaring that the beast had devoured the Wind Spirit Pearl. She announced her absolute resolve to rip the treasure right out of its monstrous stomach. She challenged anyone to join her crusade. Suffocating tension choked the cavern. The furious dragon spewed an apocalyptic lightning breath. Unblinking, Miss Ming countered with her ultimate art, Blade of Wind, Void Breaker. The clashing elements triggered a deafening, sky-shattering explosion. Tremendous shockwaves blasted outward, forcing Miss Ming to violently stab her blade into the earth just to anchor herself. The hunters stood awestruck. She actually parried the Supreme Titan's fury. Seeing the monster bleed, the giant realized this god-tier beast could actually be slain. He roared his alliance. Refusing to retreat empty-handed, Captain Ross fiercely ignited his flames, joining the raid. The remaining Awakeners rallied together. Miss Ming grimly confessed that her lone aura fell utterly short, as this horrifying Thunderflood dragon proudly possessed true third-level intermediate stage cultivation. She summoned a supreme third-level divine artifact, the indestructible adamantine silk net. She sternly commanded the group to restrain the beast with the net, allowing her to deliver the execution strike. Sensing the impending trap, the enraged dragon glared as they cast the glowing web across the pool. The dragon lunged skyward to escape, but Miss Ming fiercely intercepted its flight path. Suddenly, her cold eyes flicked toward the shadowy crevice. For one heart-stopping second, Her piercing gaze locked directly onto Tien. Tien instantly vanished into the dark shadows. Refocusing, Miss Ming effortlessly overtook the beast, brutally crushing its desperate skyward escape. Purple lightning roared toward her. Without flinching, she crushed a wind crystal from her pocket. Instantly, a terrifying tempest of energy erupted around her. Stormfall! She unleashed a devastating beam. The piercing gale shattered the incoming purple thunder, striking straight at the legendary Thunderflood dragon. A direct hit. The beast roared as the strike smashed its head. It crashed into the trap below, and the awakened users instantly pulled. Cheers erupted across the battlefield, but their commander's voice cut through. Maintain your formations. They couldn't give this divine beast a single opening to escape. Miss Ming descended like a valkyrie upon its back. Taking her stance for the final blow, she chanted, "Blade of wind, spirit pierce." The majestic dragon howled in agony. Plummeting toward the lake, it desperately unleashed a final surge of lightning. A massive geyser erupted into the heavens. The shockwave blasted several warriors into the canyon walls. The mighty beast finally collapsed, surrounded by fallen hunters. Above them, Miss Ming suddenly coughed up blood. As she approached the carcass, its eyes snapped open. It spat out the mythical wind spirit pearl. She lunged, but Captain Ross launched a treacherous strike. Greed consumed his eyes for the divine artifact. "You are courting death," she warned fiercely. He was inches away when her wind magic blasted him backward, but the backlash hit her. Miss Ming vomited blood, her legs giving out just inches from the pearl. Watching from the shadows, Tien saw his fateful moment. He smashed through his hiding spot. Leaping across the cavern like a shadow, the legendary wind spirit pearl was finally within his grasp. Snatching the glowing pearl midair, Tien slammed his axe into the cliffside to halt his fall. With the divine treasure secured, he instantly became everyone's target. He needed to vanish. Scaling out of the death pit, the scattered corpses of elite thunder lizards painted a grim picture. This battlefield was absolute madness. Thank the heavens for his hidden escape route. Without it, dreaming of the pearl was impossible, and he would have died in that bloody slaughterhouse. He vanished into the forest, leaping gracefully between ancient branches. His blood axe transformation was burning its final seconds. Finding a hidden sanctuary, he finally deactivated it. At last, he gazed hungrily at the wind spirit pearl. Holding this mythical artifact sent a thrilling spark through his entire soul. Used as an awakening stone, this treasure practically guaranteed he would unlock a devastating ability. But survival ruled his mind. Rushing the ritual now was suicidal. The sacred ceremony required absolute isolation. Thankfully, Captain Ross was the only fool who knew about his blood axe transformation, and Miss Ming had already killed him. The math was simple. Keep his transformation locked away, and his identity as the phantom thief of the wind spirit pearl remains an absolute secret. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. Miss Ming materialized right before him. But as their gazes locked, she violently coughed up blood, her strength crumbling. Trembling, she raised a hand. She wasn't here to shed blood over the wind spirit pearl. Against all odds, this terrifying warrior came to negotiate a trade. Her offer was mind-bending, a Thunderflood dragon's monster core in exchange for the pearl. Its monstrous value made the pearl look like absolute trash. Sensing zero spiritual aura from his body, she saw through him. "You stole it for your awakening ceremony, didn't you?" she asked, gasping for breath. She swore the dragon core held infinitely more awakening power. Tien was stunned into silence. He knew she spoke the truth. His dormant blood axe was practically howling for it. "How did you track me?" he demanded. As a wind attribute master, she explained that the wind spirit pearl acted like a blazing beacon to her senses nearby. Hearing this, his mind finally rested. The deepest secret of his blood axe transformation remained perfectly hidden. "Deal," he stated firmly. She whispered her deep gratitude, admitting this divine pearl was tied to her very destiny. They tossed their treasures in perfect sync. But the second her fingers brushed the glowing pearl, her eyes rolled back. She collapsed, leaving Tien totally shocked. Approaching cautiously, he realized she was completely out cold. This goddess of war had been an absolute monster. Seeing her this broken felt completely surreal to him. The dragon battle had drained every drop of her life force. His survival instinct screamed to avoid trouble and leave, but a heavy sigh escaped his lips. Turning back, he hoisted her onto his back. "Consider yourself blessed by fate," he muttered. "I simply can't bear to leave a beauty to die." Moonlight filtered into their hidden cave sanctuary. The scent of roasted meat filled the air as she awoke. Instantly, her gaze locked onto his scarred, shirtless back. "Why save my life?" she asked sharply. "You could have stolen back the pearl and stripped all my treasures while I was down." He laughed softly. "A true gentleman claims wealth with honor. He would never stoop to taking advantage of others. Besides, I'm just too soft-hearted for my own good. A rare smirk crossed her lips. Standing up, she introduced herself as Ming Lan. He shared his name, sealing their fateful encounter with a handshake. Ming Lan dropped a bombshell. She possessed an ancient technique to perfectly activate the dragon core. Once her mana recovered, she vowed to personally guide his awakening. With a core this pure, you might awaken a legendary king-tier ability. Tien was utterly shocked. Over the fire, she revealed the hidden truths of the awakened world. Tien only knew the standard hierarchy of power: lower tier, middle tier, high tier, and the mythical realm of king tier. But the hierarchy doesn't end there, she whispered. Above kings rule the god tier abilities, though even to an elite like her, it was a mere legend. Destructive power aside, she revealed a cruel law. Your awakening tier determines the absolute limit of your cultivation journey. The revelation struck Tien like a thunderbolt. He had never heard this horrifying truth, but then again a remote slum like Blackrock City was completely blind. Listen closely, she instructed. Those who awaken lower tier abilities are cursed. They rot at level 1, unable to advance in this life. Middle tiers hit a solid wall at level 3. High tiers max at level 6. King tiers conquer level 9. As for God tier, it remains unknown. The truth finally hit him. The absolute overlord of Blackrock City was stuck at peak level 3 because his mediocre middle-tier talent chained him down. In a forgotten wasteland like Blackrock City, awakening a supreme-tier ability was practically impossible. Advanced awakening treasures were legendary, but the true bottleneck was the lost awakening arts. Listening to her, he realized saving her was a stroke of absolute fate. Without her, even holding the Thunderflood Dragon's monster core, that devastating power would remain forever locked. Karma truly existed. To repay her life debt, she offered her clan's forbidden secret art to trigger his awakening, binding him to an oath of absolute silence. He swore the oath. 3 nights later, beneath a blanket of stars, she manifested the legendary Moonlight Spirit Initiation Array. Drawing upon the midnight abyss and lunar essence, the formation would refine his very soul, pushing his mortal senses past human limits. Only then could he pierce the treasure's shell, seizing the ancient core within to forcefully merge their destinies. Brace yourself, she commanded. Emerald runes ignited across the earth. Miss Ming ascended, weaving a majestic domain of power with Tien anchored at the eye of the storm. Pure ecstasy washed over him. He felt like an ascending immortal as boundless energy ruptured the heavens above. Clear your mind, she warned. His singular mission: lock onto the Thunderflood Dragon's sleeping fury, conquer its violent core, and devour it whole. Plunging into deep meditation, his consciousness materialized in an apocalyptic wasteland, drowning in catastrophic lightning. He had entered the beast's inner sanctum. This raging storm was its origin energy, yet reaching out, the savage arcs felt as gentle as a breeze. The lightning welcomed him. As he absorbed a single spark, an intoxicating surge of raw strength coursed through his veins. So this was the legendary awakening. Grinning wildly, he became a ravenous vortex, swallowing the storm. The physical core slammed into his glabella, forcefully merging with his flesh. Dawn broke as his eyes snapped open. Explosive vitality flooded his meridians, eradicating his hidden traumas and leaving him reborn. Miss Ming's eyes sparkled. Success? He smirked, clenching his fist. It was perfect. The untamed lightning now answered to him like an extension of his own soul. But why is the aura blue instead of the beast's imperial purple? She smiled, explaining it was the natural constraint of a newborn awakening. His mortal vessel couldn't yet shoulder a true king-tier domain. Shifting focus, he asked about her lingering wounds. Fully recovered, she confidently replied. Why ask? She probed. His eyes burned with battle intent. Spar with me. I need to test this new power. Amused, she gracefully accepted the challenge. Crackling lightning erupted toward her. Yet, with a single elegant finger, she dispersed the strike. Impressive raw destructive force, she praised calmly. Hitting level 1 peak instantly is genius. But your martial technique is garbage. Your stance is riddled with fatal openings. You lack absolute control. Undeterred, he summoned his blood axe. Face this next strike. Her calm facade finally cracked in surprise. Tien hoisted the heavy blade. Violet lightning cloaked his aura, pushing his combat power to the absolute limit. She retaliated, manifesting razor-sharp wind blades. Boom! He pulverized the earth. Shockwaves of thunder blasted Miss Ming backward. Sliding to a halt, she stared at the shattered crater. Was that your trump card? Infused with rampant lightning, the axe's lethality had literally multiplied. She frankly admitted, the strike nearly broke her absolute defense. That was the devastating might of a level 2 peak expert. Dispelling his aura, he humbly called it luck. Nonsense, she countered. King-tier talents defy the heavens. Only 1 in 10,000 prodigies ever touches this realm. Its supremacy is absolute. Furthermore, it unlocks a unique, reality-bending innate skill. My king-tier wind mastery allows me to conquer the skies. She locked eyes with him. Cultivate fiercely and awaken your own divine talent. Wait, doesn't every wind user fly? Her musical laughter echoed. Foolish boy, stepping into the domain of the gods demands a steep price. Her smile faded into solemnity. It was time to part ways. With a king-tier foundation and a divine artifact like the Blood Axe, his future was limitless. Black Rock City is a mere puddle. Come to Star City, where true dragons soar. Without hesitation, he etched that promise into his soul. Leaving him with a breathtaking smile, she vanished into the clouds. I will be waiting. Her parting words ignited a blazing fire in his heart for Star City. 2 grueling days later, Tien reached the Dimensional Rift's exit. Something was horribly wrong. The normally bustling mercenary hub was now a ghost town. The eerie silence was suffocating. Even the forest beasts had completely vanished. A sinister shadow blocked his path. It was Ross's burly enforcer, Dong Chang, a formidable level 1 high-tier threat. About time, he spat. Locking down this rift was drawing heavy heat. If you hadn't shown up, I'd have lost my patience. Target me? But we've never crossed paths, Dong Chang scoffed. Cut the act. Even the fallen patrol chief's son should recognize a true overlord of Black Rock City. Hand over the Wind Spirit Pearl. Out of respect for your dead father, I'll leave your corpse whole. I already gifted it to Miss Ming. Thinking it was a pathetic bluff, Dong Chang's aura flared murderously. Fine. I'll just rip it from your cold, dead hands. He charged, unleashing his mid-tier technique, Adamantine Fist. Tien effortlessly parried with the Blood Axe, instantly mounting a savage counteroffensive. You hide your fangs well, Dong Chang roared. Time to die. Blurring into shadows, he rained down the devastating Starfall Fist barrage. You dug your own grave. Tien's eyes turned lethal. Dong Chang was the perfect stepping stone to baptize his ultimate strike, Instant Thunder Annihilate. Lightning vaporized the Phantom Fists instantly. Dong Chang froze in sheer disbelief. A cataclysmic shockwave tore through the rift, collapsing massive stone pillars into dust. Dong Chang's mind reeled. Wasn't this kid just a pathetic rookie? How could a fresh awakening birth such monstrous combat prowess? That tyrannical strike possessed the lethal force of a level 2 peak master. A demonic smirk painted Tien's face. Days ago, he was prey. Now, he was casually crushing a level 2 high-tier powerhouse beneath his heel. Power surged through his veins. Tien demanded answers about his identity. Terrified of dying, Dong Chang desperately begged for his life, promising to confess everything. Before meeting his demise by Miss Ming, Ross had leaked the truth. Dong Chang wept, wishing he could erase the cursed knowledge of Tien's dark secret. Hoping this buried the Blood Axe's secret forever, Tien whispered a cold farewell. In one swift motion, his ruthless blade severed the man's fate. Exiting the spatial rift, he was immediately met by stunned security guards. Their jaws dropped in sheer disbelief. How exactly did he bypass Dong Chang's absolute temporary seal on the entrance? A single deathly glare paralyzed them. He warned them to stay silent if they valued survival, leaving the guards suffocating under his overwhelming aura. Terrified by his murderous gaze, they froze. Descending the stairs with chilling calmness, Tien finally pulled out his long-forgotten phone to check the screen. 75 missed calls from Uncle Lin flooded the screen. Suddenly, it rang again, and a frantic scolding instantly blasted through the speaker. The old man had been absolutely terrified. Tien had vanished into the dangerous rift completely alone for 10 agonizing days. When specialized search parties found absolutely nothing, Lin feared the boy had met a gruesome end in the abyss. Tien softly apologized, blaming the rift's dead zone. He then asked if an emergency had triggered this frantic panic. Relieved, his uncle told him to just head home and visit tomorrow. The brutal 10-day Black Rock Rift trial was finally over, and crucially, he had successfully awakened his dormant ability. Exhausted, he dragged himself home for a well-deserved slumber. Come morning, an obnoxious alarm blared, only to be instantly obliterated by his fist. At 12:15, a backup alarm suffered the exact same fate. Soon, a symphony of hidden clocks erupted simultaneously, pushing his morning annoyance to the absolute limit. Realizing he couldn't dodge Uncle Lin forever, he finally surrendered. Throwing on his clothes, he dashed out the door, already severely behind schedule. A passing elder couple gasped, wondering where he had vanished to since he had been missing for ages. Offering a polite smile, he casually brushed it off as a simple trip. They warned him to carefully avoid ending up like his tragic father. He simply nodded silently. Sprinting down the sidewalk, a persistent cab driver eagerly honked, offering him a ride. He declined, but the driver desperately shouted a discount. Before the words even landed, Tien had vanished like a phantom. Lightning crackled around him. He didn't need a cab since he was a newly awakened hunter. Using his thunder attribute was vastly cheaper, granting him an unstoppable blur of absolute speed. Moving 10 times faster than normal human limits, he instantly materialized outside the prestigious Ability Association's presidential office. Uncle Lin let out a massive sigh of relief. Sensing the lingering tension, Tian asked for the reason behind the urgency, prompting Uncle Lin to reveal a hidden treasure. It was a flawlessly radiant, top-grade intermediate ability stone. Obtaining this was a monumental task. Lin desperately hoped this treasure would finally force Tian's dormant powers to awaken. Smiling gently, Tian politely refused the offer. Misunderstanding the gesture, Uncle Lin flared up, demanding to know if this priceless artifact was somehow considered beneath the young man's standards. Tian quickly diffused the tension, clarifying his true intentions. He deeply appreciated the countless priceless stones Uncle Lin had selflessly wasted on his dormant core over the grueling years. Baffled, Uncle Lin insisted he could still absorb the heavy financial hit. As a formidable level 3 hunter and the president of the association, this luxury was a sacrifice he willingly bore. With a confident smirk, Tian dropped the bombshell. He had awakened. Overjoyed, Uncle Lin eagerly demanded to know the exact tier of his newfound power. A legendary king tier, Tian declared proudly. Uncle Lin's jaw hit the floor in absolute shock before he suddenly launched a ruthless, testing strike right at Tian. Tian danced through the furious kicks like water. Spotting an opening, he released a paralyzing jolt of lightning, forcing the president into a hilarious, humiliating split. Cursing the cheeky brat, Uncle Lin demanded help up. Brushing off the dust, the veteran openly marveled at the terrifying, undisputed might of a king tier. A mere rookie, yet he was already radiating peak level 1 energy. Lin realized he would need serious power to safely restrain him, knowing this absolute miracle would have made Tian's father weep with ecstatic pride. At the mention of his dad, Tian's gaze sharpened as he demanded the hidden truth. The world claimed the man simply vanished and died, but Tian fiercely rejected that shallow lie. With a heavy sigh, Lin confessed his tragic uncertainty. Decades ago, their fateful expedition into an anomalous rift had rapidly spiraled into an apocalyptic nightmare. Thousands of elite hunters were instantly slaughtered. Only Uncle Lin and Tian's father crawled out alive, their survival entirely owed to the legendary accursed Blood Axe. But the Blood Axe suppressed Tian, blocking his awakening entirely. His father refused to accept that tragic fate. So, Uncle Lin suspected the man marched straight back into that hellish rift to find a cure. Anticipating Tian's desperate hunger for the exact coordinates, Lin produced a cryptic runic puzzle box, demanding a single drop of his blood. A crimson drop fell. Instantly, ancient blinding runes flared to life. The deadly coordinates were absolutely sealed within the vault. Lin declared it would stubbornly remain locked until Tian's strength overwhelmingly surpassed his own, specifically when he reached the impossible level 4. Entering that forbidden zone early guaranteed a gruesome death. Accepting the heavy burden of this warning, Tian bowed in profound, solemn gratitude. With a monstrous core finally unlocked, he needed absolute mastery. Turning to his mentor, he eagerly requested guidance on where to formally forge his raw lightning. So, he warmly recommended Star City Academy, the South's most legendary institution. Both Uncle Lin and Tian's father bled there, though their painfully mediocre talent had tragically condemned them to mere unofficial student status. Conquering those hallowed halls would perfectly honor his father's legacy. Days later, a sleek bullet train tore through the landscape while Tian dozed peacefully. A passenger rudely nudged him to pass. Tian stepped aside, but his sharp hunter's vision caught a suspicious glint, instantly halting the stranger in his tracks. "What is your problem?" the guy sneered. Tian coldly exposed the petty theft. Panicking, the cornered thief desperately masked his guilt with arrogant fury, screaming wild lawsuit threats and slander accusations. Exhaling a tired sigh, Tian unleashed a paralyzing spark. Snatching a stolen wallet from the trembling thug's pocket, he sarcastically asked for an explanation. The thief exploded in rage, cursing elite awakened hunters for arrogantly meddling in mortal affairs. Tian could only stare at the sheer, unhinged audacity, spouting righteous garbage while holding stolen cash. Upon arrival, Tian ruthlessly dumped the shivering criminal with security, efficiently filing his ironclad report. "Playing the heroic savior?" a smooth voice mocked. Turning around, Tian faced a sharply dressed blonde stranger in an immaculate white suit, who smirked and confidently introduced himself as Chen Hao. Sent by Uncle Lin, Hao arrived to pick him up. Tian politely expressed his gratitude, but deep down, he was completely shocked by this guy's insanely flashy entrance. Hao brushed it off with a confident grin. After all, he used to be Blackrock City's absolute lone prodigy at the prestigious Star City Ability Academy. With Tian here, he finally had a true brother-in-arms. Cruising in a blazing sports car, Tian clarified he was no hero. Honestly, he was just a victim. Hao burst into roaring laughter. A fully awakened ability user getting robbed by an ordinary street rat? That was absolutely hilarious. Tian sighed heavily, explaining he just wanted to catch the thief red-handed. Changing the subject, He asked about the Academy's entrance exam. How should he prepare for the ultimate trial? Hao scoffed loudly. Prepare? He told him that a king-tier awakening was the absolute ultimate golden ticket. He swore the moment Tien arrived at the testing center, the elite admissions staff would be falling over themselves just to passionately kiss his feet. At the academy, their car was suddenly blocked. Hao's fiery temper exploded. The guard bluntly stated the student council's harsh ruling. Following his previous barricade crash, his campus driving privileges were revoked. Hao fiercely argued it was a total accident. He bitterly blamed that absolute tyrant Ming Lan. Smirking, the guard found his cursing amusing, but strictly warned that insulting the disciplinary head was currently being recorded. Hao stepped out of his car, swallowing his immense pride and admitting defeat. Mid-apology, Hao offered premium Huazi cigarettes, but the strict guard flagged it as blatant bribery, making the chaotic situation incredibly worse. Forced to walk the rest of the way, Tien seized the perfect moment to question Hao's absolute terror regarding this Ming Lan. Hao shuddered visibly, calling her a downright tyrant. Though just a sophomore like them, this ruthless disciplinary head was a completely merciless demon. She would viciously punish her own peers without a second thought. And if anyone dared to defy her absolute authority, she would mercilessly beat them into the ground. Tien was utterly stunned that blatant violence was allowed here. Hao sighed heavily. He would soon learn the Academy's ultimate golden rule. Pure, unadulterated strength dictated everything. Unprovoked attacks were banned, but official sparring was perfectly legal. For those corrupt student council elites, delivering a brutal beatdown and a friendly sparring match were exactly the same thing. That is pure insanity, Tien gasped, questioning if true justice even existed. Hao grimly replied that the real terrifying nightmare was Ming Lan's absolute monstrous power. He had barely reached level 2, while she had just shattered the level 3 barrier. The truth struck Tien. She absolutely needed that wind spirit pearl for her explosive breakthrough. He never imagined her wielding such immense, terrifying authority. Looking at Hao's completely traumatized expression, the fear was absolutely real. Soon, they stood before the freshman assessment office. Hao stayed behind, promising to guide him to the dorms later. Stepping inside the grand building, Tien politely approached a staff member to request his official admissions assessment. The clerk checked his papers and scoffed. He was far too late. The Academy's prestigious admissions were completely shut. Classes had been running for an entire month, but suddenly all color completely drained from the clerk's face. Staring in absolute shock at the document, he stuttered, asking if this was the legendary Luot Tien who awakened a king-tier power. Tien calmly replied, yes. The clerk's attitude instantly flipped to sheer excitement. If they could just verify this monstrous king-tier power, his elite enrollment would be flawlessly processed immediately. Unleashing his devastating aura onto a crystal, the blinding light confirmed it. He possessed a genuinely terrifying king-tier awakening, radiating remarkably overwhelming power. The trembling clerk explained their secret rule. Out of 10 annual special admission slots, 1 golden ticket miraculously remained. He rushed to finalize the elite enrollment at once. Halt, right there! An authoritative voice boomed. Everyone froze, turning toward the imposing figure. The terrified clerk assisting Tien was utterly shocked to see Director Yan. Why was he interfering? This green-haired powerhouse was Yan Ke, the Academy's supreme admissions director. Piercing Tien with a deadly glare, he aggressively demanded if he was Luot Tien. Suffocating pressure crashed down like a massive mountain. Tien sensed this monster was undoubtedly a level 4 expert, yet, completely unfazed, he answered with unshakable, blazing confidence. Director Yan sinisterly admired his sheer audacity. Yet, Tien instantly sensed a trap. This man already knew exactly who he was. Glaring daggers at the clerk, the director condemned his incredibly sloppy work. Shaking, the terrified clerk desperately defended himself, claiming he was strictly following the sacred Academy admission regulations. King-tier geniuses bypassing exams was an ancient rule. Yan coldly acknowledged this undeniable truth, but dropped a devastating bombshell. Every single elite admission slot for the year was utterly gone. The shocked clerk fiercely protested. That was absolutely impossible. He had just verified the system, and 1 final golden slot was definitely still open. Frantically checking again, his jaw dropped. It was incredibly bizarre. All 10 legendary slots were mysteriously filled. In previous years, this special quota had never been completely exhausted. How could they all vanish into thin air? Enough, Yan barked fiercely. Since the quota was absolutely full, he strictly commanded the clerk to bury his useless investigation immediately. Pleading for this once-in-a-generation talent, the frantic clerk begged for a special exception. Yan's blazing fury erupted. He angrily roared that the Academy bleeds astronomical resources to meticulously forge every single ability warrior. These sacred annual quotas were strictly mandated by the almighty war god temple. They could not simply bend divine laws just because they felt like adding extra slots. Smirking coldly, Director Yan suggested Tien retreat. He must endure the regular admissions bloodbath next year. But time was a luxury Tien simply did not possess. He desperately needed overwhelming power to locate his missing father. Staring death in the eye, he demanded immediate academy entry. "I will conquer absolutely any trial," he declared fearlessly. A sinister smirk crept across Director Yan's face. Meanwhile, the crushed clerk muttered that without a slot, his dream was dead. As the clerk urged retreat, Director Yan's voice cut through. "There might be one forbidden path," he declared. The room completely froze. What was this secret? "The Rift Trial," Yan revealed. Both clerks gasped in sheer horror, instantly rejecting the idea. That hellish domain was absolute, undeniable suicide. Yan coldly silenced them. He reminded everyone that the Academy purposely forged this brutal path for desperate souls. Their only duty was to explain the nightmare clearly, leaving the fatal risk entirely in the candidate's hands. Reading the room, Tian realized this rift trial was a literal death trap. Furthermore, the malicious glint proved the director desperately wanted him to enter. Knowing his true identity, combined with the mysteriously vanished slots. And none of this was a coincidence. Tian's sharp instinct screamed. This corrupt director was undoubtedly orchestrating a lethal conspiracy. Refusing to back down, Tien demanded the terrifying details about the rift. Legends state this very academy was originally constructed directly above an ancient abyss, the infamous Stardust Rift. Hidden deep within its deadly confines lies a legendary treasure, the spirit-cleansing spring. This miraculous water radically purifies an awakener's soul, permanently evolving mere mortals into heaven-defying true geniuses. The rift entrance heavily restricted entry, allowing only level 1 awakened users inside this deadly monster-infested nightmare. Facing terrifying level 3 beasts inside, this chaotic dungeon became a complete wasteland, totally useless to the prestigious academy. True prodigies refused this death trap. Refusing to waste assets, the academy bent rules, permitting any level 1 user under 25 to challenge this deadly abyss. Surviving and claiming the legendary spirit-cleansing spring meant instant admission into their elite ranks. Warnings echoed for Tien to reconsider. Possessing a king-tier ability meant zero need for suicidal risks. Yet, Tien smiled, determined to defy fate. A massive crowd suffocated the entrance. Whispers spread like wildfire, doubting Tien could actually survive this hellish trial. The Stardust Rift was a forgotten graveyard for over 10 years. Countless awakened souls were utterly slaughtered inside its cursed depths. Teacher Song desperately offered a final out. With absolute confidence burning in his eyes, Tien stepped into the unknown void. Crossing the threshold, a desolate desert realm appeared. Worlds apart from Black Rock, Tien successfully infiltrated the Stardust Rift, playing right into Director Yan's trap. What sinister plot was unfolding? Suddenly, murderous intent erupted from behind, ambushing our hero. Relying on godlike reflexes, he dodged cleanly. He gained distance from the terrifying level 1 desert giant scorpion. Without his legendary blood axe, this desert beast completely overpowered him. A lethal tail whip struck. He sprinted frantically, trapped in a desperate dance of pure survival. A devastating strike slammed him into the unforgiving earth. Holding back was suicide. One wrong move meant absolute slaughter here. Desperation pushed him toward the blood axe. But his instinct screamed, an invisible, chilling gaze was actively hunting him from the shadows. Tech was useless in rifts, meaning zero cameras. However, mysterious abilities existed, leaving him completely blind to their terrifying monitoring methods. The blood axe remained a devastating secret. With Director Yan scheming in the shadows, Tien kept his ultimate weapon completely sealed. Outmatched in pure strength, sprinting was his only salvation. Meanwhile, the Academy superiors ruthlessly monitored his struggle through a mystical projection. Panic struck Teacher Song. He demanded an immediate halt, fearing the catastrophic loss of a peerless king-tier prodigy in this wretched wasteland. Director Yan's twisted suspicion deepened. Did Tien really possess the mythical blood axe? Awakening king-tier power in a slum like Black Rock was impossible. He demanded patience. Meanwhile, the colossal beast burrowed deep into the deadly sands. Terror spiked as the predator erupted from beneath. A brutal tail whip shattered his defense, spraying fresh blood. Worse, an entire swarm suddenly surfaced. One beast was terrifying enough. Two meant absolute devastation. A single strike brought him inches from death's door. Only the blood axe's residual body strengthening saved him from instantly exploding. Mind racing, he desperately searched for a miracle escape. A sudden realization struck. Scorpions despised water. Finding an oasis meant surviving. Trapped in an infinite desert, he deduced these beasts absolutely required a hidden hydration source to exist. Since their deadly nest was right here, water was undeniably close. Tracking the flight of mysterious birds, a brilliant escape path formed. Wagering his very life, he dashed forward. Boom! A catastrophic claw strike blasted Tien away in a dazzling explosion of lightning. His backpack absorbed the devastating impact. Smashing into the dirt, his unbreakable willpower forced him to keep sprinting. A massive oasis appeared. Victory tasted sweet. Pushing his limits, he dove wildly into the crystal waters, sending massive ripples echoing across the lake. Breaking the surface, he boldly mocked the deadly swarm, flipping them off. Taunting the predators, more monstrous scorpions endlessly poured from the scorched earth. An overwhelming army of beasts had gathered. Surviving was a pure miracle. Yet shockingly, these mutated freaks showed zero fear of the water. They marched directly in. Adrenaline pumping, our hero swam frantically. Panic set in. Even reaching the distant island sanctuary guaranteed zero actual safety. Was unleashing the blood axe his final option? Suddenly, a mysterious magical barrier materialized around the isolated island. Ignoring the mystic phenomenon, he breached the shore, charging straight toward the unknown forest. The island was breathtakingly beautiful. Instantly, that chilling sensation of being watched completely evaporated into thin air. Teacher Song freaked out completely. Reporting to Director Yan, the sinister boss coldly smirked, already witnessing the shocking blind spot. The projection stone's magic utterly collapsed upon the lake island. Total darkness on the monitors. Dread filled the room, but their frantic worrying proved completely useless now. Tien was completely on his own now. The monstrous swarm invaded the island, but a terrifying smirk crossed Tien's face. Free from prying eyes, it was a slaughterhouse. The legendary blood axe materialized. Claws and fangs snapped as the deadly monsters completely surrounded their prey. A wild grin flashed. The blood axe roared upward, erupting in pure lightning. A devastating crimson wave shredded the vanguard, cleanly severing their tough horns. Twisting midair with electric grace, he prepared his ultimate combo. These level 2 jokes were nothing but fodder now. Surging forward, his brutal slashes dismantled their armor. A tempest of blood and steel ended the fight. Panting heavily, the entire demonic swarm lay utterly decimated. This mystic island pulsed with ancient secrets, igniting fierce hope that the legendary spirit-cleansing spring awaited his discovery. A majestic, colossal tree dominated the core. Tien finally arrived, his senses overwhelmed by the insanely dense spiritual aura radiating outward. Sprinting for the prize, his godlike instinct suddenly screamed, "Deadly warning." Bizarrely, the earth beneath this divine ancient tree remained completely dead and terrifyingly barren. Even deprived of light, basic moss should thrive. Suspicion flared as strange birds eerily circled the cursed perimeter. He snatched the creature midair, hurling it into the dead zone. Instantly, blinding golden flames swallowed the bird, incinerating its thrashing body to ashes. A cold sweat dripped down his face. Needing confirmation, he ripped out a thick weed and tossed it ahead. In a flash, absolute destruction. The plant vanished entirely, but Tien's sharp eyes caught a crucial detail. The earth itself remained untouched. The chilling truth dawned on him. Only living, breathing things were being erased. This terrifying golden light was a predator that feasted on pure life force. No wonder the ground lay barren. One reckless step forward, and his life would have ended. A bitter dilemma struck him. The legendary spirit cleansing spring, his ultimate goal, was definitely hidden deep inside that very tree. Frustration clenched his fists. To come all this way, just to hit a dead end? Yet, analyzing the lethal light, he noticed it strictly guarded the tree's immediate shadow. What kind of cursed barrier was this? Narrowing his gaze, something bizarre about the massive canopy above caught his undivided attention. Radiant golden blossoms coated only the absolute top layer of the ancient tree. Curiously, the lower branches remained completely bare and empty. Were they just desperate for sunlight? No. That defied all logic of nature. Even sun-starved plants would have scattered blooms hidden within the deeper foliage. Golden blossoms above, a devouring light below. Like a puzzle locking into place, a horrifying realization struck him instantly. Those weren't petals. The light and the flowers were one and the same. A swarm of deadly territorial parasites feasting on anything that dared approach their host tree. Springing into action, he scaled a nearby trunk. Drawing his heavy bow, he channeled crackling lightning directly into his arrow. With a sharp exhale, he let it fly. The shot was perfect, yet the target twitched away. But the erupting web of voltage caught it, roasting the parasite to ash. Bingo. They were biological monsters, moving at speeds invisible to mortal eyes. His elemental lightning strike was the only reason that attack had even connected. It escaped the blade, but the shocking area of effect was its doom. Still, arrogance meant death here. He had to gauge his element's true devastating radius. Firing volley after volley, sparks danced as he electrocuted the unseen swarm. The terrifying combat data revealed itself. His absolute kill zone was a mere 5 centimeters. Within a triangular crossfire he tested, the parasite's trapped dead center remained completely untouched. They hovered just safely out of his destructive voltage reach. A crazy plan forged in his mind. If he wove a cage of pure lightning, keeping every gap under 5 centimeters tight, he could completely neutralize their deadly assault. It was his only ticket into the inner sanctuary. Inhaling sharply, he forced his raw aura outward, shaping the electric cage. But agony instantly flared. Crafting just a fraction pushed him to the absolute brink. As a newly awakened hunter, his core reservoir was agonizingly too shallow. Sure, his monstrous base stats rivaled a peak level 1 expert, but that sheer dominance only stemmed from brute force and the passive aura of his king-tier bloodline. When it came to fine elemental control, he was still a total rookie. Despair loomed, until a sudden spark of absolute genius flashed across his desperate mind. Lacking mana pool depth, he manipulated the density. By spinning the electric threads razor thin, he dramatically expanded the barrier's total size. Micromanaging the voltage pushed his mental limits. Sweat poured as the net collapsed repeatedly, but he stubbornly refused to yield. Hours bled into dawn. Through sheer, unrelenting willpower, a perfect sphere of crackling blue energy finally stabilized. A legendary technique was born. The lightning shield. Facing the zone of death, power surged around him. Shield blazing, he charged directly into the heart of the infested darkness. Chaos instantly erupted. The swarm slammed his defense, blocked by the mesh, but aggressively devoured his precious mana at a terrifying rate. His core screamed in agony. Pushing his legs to the limit, he violently threw himself into the tree's massive hollow, his defensive aura shattering immediately upon entry. Brushing off the literal jaws of death, he gasped for air. A few paralyzed parasites clung to his gauntlet, letting him finally inspect these nightmarish, microscopic assassins. Catching his breath, he ventured into the sprawling cavern below. Sliding down the steep abyss, his stomach dropped as the floor suddenly vanished into thin air. Flipping with feline grace, he stuck the landing perfectly. Instantly, an overpowering aura of supreme spiritual density washed over him, causing his inner lightning to roar in ecstasy. Behold, the legendary spirit cleansing spring lay before him. This divine water was renowned for reforging mortal flesh into an indestructible vessel. Wasting no time, he plunged into the glowing pool, locking into deep cultivation. Yet, a frown crept onto his face. Where was the legendary, bone-shattering evolution he was promised? Sure, his elemental capacity swelled magnificently, but his physical muscles and bones? They remained completely stagnant. This supposed divine tempering felt like a mere splash in a puddle. A thought struck him. After surviving the blood axe and possessing a king-tier aura, had his body already outgrown this treasure? Disappointment tasted like ash. If his bodily limits were already maxed out, then this legendary spring was utterly useless to him. Had he risked his life for nothing? Scooping the radiant liquid, his instincts flared. The mana density was rich, but missing that mythical kick. Even an ordinary hunter wouldn't achieve rebirth with just this diluted soup. The true treasure had to be hidden nearby. Suddenly, a brilliant divine spark flashed from the high cavern ceiling. Dangling above was an ancient stone fish. Incredibly, the glowing droplet inside its mouth began to squirm. It danced gracefully above the pool, before darting back into the statue. Revelation hit him like a thunderbolt. That singular droplet was the true divine essence. Launching himself upwards, he peered inside the stone maw, spotting a tiny, radiant fish, swimming. The elusive spirit tried to dart away, but his lightning-fast reflexes snatched it tight. Dropping back to the cavern floor, he marveled at the ultimate treasure pulsing within his palms. An elemental core, born from the world's deepest ley lines, possessing true sentience. Smuggling a heaven-defying artifact like this outside would only invite the wrath of greedy masters. With ruthless resolve, he swallowed it whole. Instant, hellish agony erupted through his veins. Plunging into the pool to extinguish the internal fire, he aggressively absorbed every single drop. As the chaotic energy settled, his entire being felt impossibly weightless. The legendary body transformation was an absolute, undisputed success. Summoning a spark, a terrifying surge of electric wrath exploded in his palm. His inner reservoir was monstrously deep. With a wicked grin, he had finally smashed through to level 1 peak. Even stripped of his legendary blood axe, his sheer destructive aura rivals any standard rank 2 novice awakened. Beyond mere strength, his mastery over the roaring thunder has evolved. The crackling sparks now flow like his own blood. Infusing his aura with a spiritual core, he achieved true transformation. With that epic milestone, our journey pauses here. Craving the next thrilling chapter drops? I am moving all future updates to my backup sanctuary, Manhwa Updater. Subscribe there to catch every heart-pounding moment with our legendary squad. Thanks for joining. Keep your auras blazing, stay legendary, and I will catch you next time.